How to create a pattern on Illustrator. A pattern can make a creative work visually more attractive and recognizable. It can make a real difference in the world of design, even more so if it's a custom pattern. Creating one from scratch is not difficult. I'm here to help you. Let's see together how to create a pattern on Illustrator. In a previous video, I have already talked about creating a pattern design, from its definition and history to the importance in graphic design. Today, however, I want to explain to you how to create a pattern on Illustrator from a practical point of view. As mentioned earlier, one software can be useful for creating more or less complex patterns is Adobe Illustrator. Let's start with a straightforward tutorial that will guide you in this operation. It is now clear to create graphic motifs of this type thanks to a powerful Illustrator function introduced by the CS6 version. It will only take you a few minutes, so let's start. Step 1. Create the matrix to repeat. So, the first thing to do is open a new Illustrator file by going to File, New, and creating the basic motif of the pattern or the matrix, which will then be repeated. It can be a single graphic element, a combination of shapes, a design, or a more or less complex decorative motif. Our advice is to start from a small part so that once repeated, it gives a pattern effect more expansive. Remember, this basic unit is ideally contained within a square, and the repetition of the chords will give life to the final result. Your motif must be, therefore, inscribed in this square, and the two elements must be centered between them. To do this, use the Align command. You can find it in Window, Align menu. The space between the element and the edge of the square will be the margin with which the repetitions of the pattern will be spaced. You can use an existing vector image or draw one from scratch to start creating the pattern. You can withdraw from both a vector element and a raster image. The complexity of the pattern will depend on the geometric repetition of these essential elements. Step 2. Use the Create Pattern function. At this point, we proceed using the powerful function we were talking about before, which is called Create Pattern. To create the repetition of the pattern, select your basic motif and click on Create Item. You can find it in the top menu Object Pattern Create. By clicking, you will see a window open that warns you that the pattern has been added to the Swatches panel. Your custom pattern is ready. As I mentioned earlier, you can find it in the Swatches panel. From here, you can use it as a fill pattern for any shape or element. Step 3. Adjust the composition by clicking on Create. Your pattern has been calculated and created starting from your base pattern. Now, however, it is necessary to set some parameters such as a name to find it among the samples, the type of structure and repetition, etc. All you can do from the panel that has open to you on the left is Pattern Options. Setting these parameters allows very different aspects. The structure of the repetition determines the type of pattern that will be created. You can choose between grid, brick by row, brick by column, hexagonal, etc. As you may have noticed, at this point, the modification of these settings from the Pattern Options panel is done in real time on the Pattern Preview. The panel also allows you to choose the size, width, and height of the matrix spacing and manage their overlap. In short, this is the phase in which you have to experiment with the different parameters of the panel to get the result you're looking for. Remember, however, that in addition to the option settings, you can always act on the original base motif, moving or resizing the elements rather than changing their stroke or fill color. Step 4. Save the pattern and apply it to a surface. The pattern is automatically saved and updated in the Swatches panel with each change. Once you have obtained the desired result, you can select the pattern icon from the panel to fill any element or shape. You can change the pattern at any time by double-clicking on it from the Swatches panel. The Pattern Options window will reopen, and clicking on the Pattern Preview, top right, will return to the editing view. Do not forget that the pattern has a specific size. To allow the repetition of the matrix, therefore, to have a proper pattern effect, you will have to apply it on an element more extensive than the original matrix. The larger the part is compared to the primary motif, the more the pattern will render. Perhaps changing the colors of the elements, you can duplicate it in the Swatches panel by selecting the pattern icon and dragging it to the plus at the bottom right. By doing so, a copy will be made. You can edit the matrix, obtaining a second pattern accessible from the swatches panel and editable from the pattern options panel. Now you are ready to use the pattern maker tool and use them for your brand or projects. Try and retry schemes until the result convinces you. Start from something simple. A pattern does not necessarily have to be complex to be effective. Maybe use your logo or distinctive graphic signs for your brand. And if you don't know where to start, Google can prove to be an excellent ally. On the web you can find many resources, even for free, vector and not to be used for your graphic design projects. I hope that you guys have enjoyed this video. If you did, remember to subscribe to this channel and hit the notification bell so you won't miss any future videos about design and packaging. I'm Stefano, and as always, love you all. Ciao!